A dying billionaire walks into a diner at midnight with an impossible proposition and 9 months to find someone willing to carry his last hope for the future. Grayson Vale had everything money could buy, except time. The diagnosis sat in his jacket pocket like a loaded gun. Stage 4. Maybe a year, the doctor said. Maybe less. He didn't want monuments or memorials. He wanted a child, someone to prove he'd been here, that his life meant something beyond quarterly reports and hostile takeovers. But finding a woman willing to bring his baby into the world while he died, that required desperation he'd never known before. Stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The rain came down like punishment that November night, turning Portland's streets into black mirrors that reflected nothing but neon and headlights. Grayson Vale sat in the back of his Mercedes, watching water stream down the window, and thought about dying. Not the romantic kind. Not the peaceful fade to black they showed in movies. The real thing. The kind where your body betrayed you one system at a time while you stayed conscious enough to catalog every loss. The oncologist's voice still echoed in his head from that morning's appointment, clinical and careful, like he was discussing a failing stock instead of a failing life. The scans show progression, aggressive. We're looking at 12 months, possibly less. 12 months, 52 weeks, 365 days. However you counted it, it wasn't enough. Sir? His driver Marcus glanced in the rearview mirror. We're here. Grayson looked up. They'd stopped outside a place called Rosie's Diner, a squat building with a flickering sign and steam-clouded windows. Not the kind of establishment he typically frequented, but tonight wasn't about Michelin stars or wine lists. Tonight was about something else entirely, though he couldn't quite name it yet. Wait here, Grayson said, stepping out into the rain. The cold hit him immediately, seeping through his wool coat. He should have brought an umbrella, should have stayed home, should have done a lot of things differently over the past 32 years. But regret was a luxury for people who had time to indulge it, and time was the one thing Grayson Vale couldn't buy. The diner's door chimed when he pushed it open. Warmth rushed out to meet him, carrying the smell of coffee and bacon grease and something cinnamon. A handful of customers looked up, a trucker at the counter, 2 teenagers in a corner booth, an elderly couple sharing a slice of pie. Their eyes lingered on his coat, his shoes, the expensive watch on his wrist. He didn't belong here, and everyone knew it. Sit anywhere, hun, the voice came from behind the counter. I'll be right with you. Grayson chose a booth near the window, sliding onto cracked vinyl that had probably been red once but had faded to something closer to pink. The table wobbled. He folded his napkin and wedged it under one leg, then sat back and looked around. The place was tired. Not dirty, just worn down by decades of use. The kind of place that survived on regulars and truckers and people who needed cheap food at odd hours. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Someone had taped construction paper turkeys to the wall in anticipation of Thanksgiving. It was aggressively ordinary. And for some reason, that made his chest tighten. Coffee? He turned. The waitress stood beside his table with a pot in one hand and a mug in the other. She was younger than the voice had suggested. 30, maybe. Dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. Eyes that were somewhere between brown and green. She wore the universal waitress uniform of black pants and a white shirt with a name tag that read Lila in faded marker. Please, Grayson said. She poured without spilling a drop, which seemed like a small miracle given how badly her hands were shaking. Cold, he realized. She'd been outside, probably smoking on her break. Her fingers were red. Menus on the table, she said, nodding toward the plastic folder wedged between the napkin dispenser and the salt shaker. Kitchen closes in 20 minutes, but don't rush. Take your time. She started to walk away. Wait! The word came out sharper than he'd intended. Sorry, I meant, what's good here? Lila turned back, and for the first time she really looked at him. Not at his coat or his watch, but at his face. Her expression shifted just slightly. Recognition, maybe. Or curiosity. The pie, she said. Apple's fresh today. Everything else is just diner food. Edible, nothing special. Honest? You asked. She shrugged. Most people don't actually want to know. They just want you to say everything's good so they don't have to think about it. Grayson found himself almost smiling. I'll have the pie then. And the coffee's fine. Sure thing. This time when she walked away, he watched. There was something deliberate about the way she moved. Careful. Like she was trying not to take up too much space or make too much noise. She delivered checks to the teenagers, refilled the truckers' coffee, and asked the elderly couple if they needed anything else, all with the same quiet efficiency. She didn't laugh or joke or chat, she just worked. His phone buzzed. Grayson pulled it out and saw his lawyer's name on the screen. He declined the call. Richard could wait. Everything could wait. For the first time in months, Grayson just wanted to sit in a shitty diner and drink mediocre coffee and not think about tumors or treatments or the empty penthouse waiting for him across town. One slice of apple pie. Lila set the plate in front of him. You want ice cream with that? It's extra, but worth it. No, thank you. She nodded and started to leave again. Do you work here every night? The question surprised him as much as it probably surprised her. Lila paused. Most nights. Why? Just curious. Uh-huh. She didn't sound convinced, but she didn't push it either. Enjoy your pie. The pie was, as advertised, good. Not life-changing, but honest. Real apples, real crust, still warm from the oven. Grayson ate slowly, making it last. Through the window, he could see Marcus in the car, scrolling through his phone. Beyond that, the city stretched out in the rain. Millions of people living millions of lives he'd never touch or understand. He'd built an empire. Vail Industries had holdings in tech, real estate, manufacturing. He employed thousands. His name appeared in Forbes every year. But sitting here, eating pie alone at midnight, none of that felt real. It felt like something he'd read about happening to someone else. The diagnosis had done that, stripped away the bullshit, made him look at his life and realize how little of it he'd actually lived. No wife, no kids, no family to speak of. His parents had died when he was 19. Car accident, black ice, gone in an instant. He'd had girlfriends over the years, relationships that lasted a few months before dissolving into mutual indifference. He told himself he was too busy building the company, too focused, too driven. The truth was simpler and uglier. He'd been afraid. Afraid of needing someone. Afraid of being left again. And now he was dying, and there was no one to leave anything to except lawyers and charities and a board of directors who'd replace him before his body was cold. More coffee? Lila appeared at his elbow with the pot. Grayson nodded, and she poured. Her hands were steadier now, warmed up from the kitchen. Can I ask you something? He said. Depends on what it is. Fair enough. He wrapped his hands around the mug. Do you like working here? Lila's eyebrows went up. That's what you want to know? Yes. She considered the question longer than it probably deserved. It's a job, she said finally. It pays rent. The owner's decent. Could be worse. But you don't like it. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. Lila set the pot down on his table and crossed her arms. Look, I don't know who you are or what you're doing here, but I'm not interested in whatever this is. You seem like a nice guy, but I'm not hitting on you. Then what are you doing? Good question. Grayson stared into his coffee like it might have answers. I'm not sure, he admitted. I saw you working. You're kind to people, patient. You don't have to be. It's my job to be nice. No, Grayson said. It's your job to take orders and bring food. Being kind is something else. Lila uncrossed her arms. For a moment she looked younger, uncertain. Are you okay? The question hit harder than it should have. No, Grayson said. Not really. She pulled out the chair across from him and sat down. You want to talk about it? I thought you weren't interested in whatever this is. I'm not interested in being hit on by random men in expensive coats, Lila corrected. But you look like you could use someone to talk to, and it's a slow night, so talk or don't. Up to you. Grayson studied her face. There was no pity there, no performance, just a tired woman offering a small kindness to a stranger because that's who she was. I'm sick, he said. The words felt strange in his mouth. He'd barely said them out loud since the diagnosis. Dying, actually. They gave me about a year. Lila's expression didn't change. I'm sorry. Don't be. I haven't given you a reason to be sorry. You're a human being who's dying. That's reason enough. She folded her hands on the table. Is there anything they can do? Treatment, maybe. Clinical trials. But the odds aren't good. Grayson shrugged. Honestly, I've made peace with it. Mostly. The part I can't make peace with is dying alone, leaving nothing behind. You must have family, friends. No family, and the friends I have are business associates. We shake hands and make deals, but that's not the same thing. Lila was quiet for a moment. So what are you going to do? That's the question, isn't it? Grayson looked out at the rain. I keep thinking about legacy, not money or buildings with my name on them. Something real, something that matters. Like what? He turned back to her. A child. The words hung in the air between them. Lila blinked. You want to have a kid? Now? Yes. That's a big decision when you're healthy. But when you're... She stopped herself. Have you thought this through? It's all I've thought about for weeks. Grayson leaned forward. I grew up poor. My parents worked themselves to death trying to keep a roof over our heads. When they died, I had nothing. I built Vail Industries from scratch because I never wanted to be that powerless again. But now I'm sitting on more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes, and it doesn't mean anything. A kid would mean something. A kid isn't a monument, Lila said carefully. They're a person. They need time and attention and love, things you might not be able to give if you're sick. I know. Grayson ran a hand through his hair. That's why I need help. Someone who can be there when I can't, someone who actually wants to be a parent, not just for the money. You're talking about surrogacy? Not exactly. More like co-parenting, a partnership. He knew how it sounded. Crazy, desperate. But he kept going anyway. I'd provide everything. Medical care, financial security, a future for both you and the child. In return, you'd agree to have my baby and help raise them, even after I'm gone. Lila stared at him. You're serious. Completely. You don't even know me. I know you're kind. I know you work 2 jobs. He nodded at the name tag from a different restaurant barely visible in her shirt pocket. And still managed to smile at customers. I know you're the kind of person who sits down with a stranger because they look sad. That's more than I know about most people. This is insane. But she didn't get up. Didn't walk away. Yes, Grayson agreed. It is. The trucker left money on the counter and headed out. The teenagers were absorbed in their phones. The elderly couple had dozed off in their booth, heads tilted toward each other like they'd been together so long they'd learned to sleep sitting up. Why me? Lila asked finally. There are agencies for this, professionals. Because agencies would treat it like a transaction. I don't want a transaction. He struggled for the right words. I want my child to know they were wanted, loved, not just by me, but by someone who chose to bring them into the world even when it was hard. Someone like you. You don't know anything about me, Lila repeated, but her voice was softer now, uncertain. Then tell me. Oh, she shook her head. I'm nobody. I serve coffee and rent a studio apartment, and most weeks I'm lucky if I can afford both food and heat. You're talking about bringing a kid into that? No, I'm talking about bringing a kid into a life where they'll never want for anything, where you'll never want for anything. Money isn't everything. Spoken like someone who's never been truly desperate. Grayson caught himself. Sorry, that was true, Lila finished. I have been desperate, more times than I can count. But I'm still here, still working, still trying. That has to count for something. It counts for everything. She looked at him for a long moment. Really looked at him, like she was trying to figure out if he was for real or just another rich guy playing games with people's lives. I need to think about it, she said finally. Of course. I mean, really think. Not just tonight. It's huge, life-changing. I can't just say yes because you made a good speech. I wouldn't want you to. Grayson pulled out his wallet and extracted a business card. My number. Call me when you've decided, or if you have questions, or if you just want to tell me to go to hell. Lila took the card and turned it over in her hands. Grayson Vail, she read. Vail Industries. You're that Grayson Vail? Does it matter? I don't know. Maybe. She tucked the card into her pocket. I really do need to think about this. Take all the time you need. I finish my shift in an hour. Grayson stood, leaving $200 bills on the table. For the pie and your time. This is way too much. Keep it, please. He pulled his coat on. And Lila? Thank you. For listening. For not laughing in my face. You're welcome. She looked down at the money, then back up at him. For what it's worth, I hope you find what you're looking for. Kid or no kid. Me too. The rain had slowed to a drizzle when Grayson stepped outside. Marcus started the car immediately, engine purring to life. But Grayson didn't get in right away. He stood on the sidewalk, watching through the diner window as Lila cleared his table and pocketed the bills and went back to work like nothing had happened. Maybe nothing had. Maybe she'd throw his card away and forget about him by morning. Maybe this whole thing was just grief and fear talking, making him grasp at impossible solutions to unsolvable problems. But as he watched her pour coffee for the elderly couple and laugh at something the old man said, Grayson felt something he hadn't felt in months. Hope. He got into the car. Home, Marcus. How was the pie, sir? Good, Grayson said. Really good. The next 3 days were torture. Grayson tried to focus on work, board meetings, conference calls, emails that required immediate attention, but his mind kept drifting back to the diner, to Lila's hands wrapped around a coffee pot, to the way she'd looked at him when he told her he was dying, like it actually mattered. His phone stayed silent. On the 4th day, Richard cornered him in his office. You've been avoiding my calls. I've been busy. You've been distracted. Richard dropped a folder on Grayson's desk. Estate planning documents. We need to finalize these. Grayson didn't open the folder. What's the rush? Grayson, Richard's voice gentled. We need to be realistic. If something happens, when something happens. When something happens, everything needs to be in order. No ambiguity, no fighting over the estate. Who's going to fight? I don't have any heirs. Exactly my point. Richard sat down. You've built something extraordinary. Vale Industries employs 15,000 people. You have a responsibility to make sure it continues. I'm not dead yet. I know, but you want me to plan my funeral while I'm still breathing. Grayson stood and walked to the window. His office was on the 42nd floor, high enough that the city looked like a toy. I'm working on something. Working on what? An heir. Richard was quiet for a moment. Adoption? Something like that. Grayson, if you're serious about this, there are proper channels, agencies, legal frameworks. You can't just, I know what I'm doing. Do you? Richard stood as well. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're making decisions based on panic instead of reason. Maybe I am. Grayson turned to face his oldest friend. Is that so wrong? I'm dying, Richard. I'm 32 years old and I'm dying. And when I'm gone, everything I built will belong to strangers. So yeah, maybe I'm panicking. Maybe I'm desperate. But I need this. Richard's expression softened. Okay, then tell me what you need me to do. Draw up a contract, airtight, protects everyone involved. Everyone meaning me, the mother, the child. You found someone? Maybe. I don't know yet. Grayson's phone buzzed. He pulled it out, heart jumping when he saw an unknown number. I have to take this. Richard nodded and left, closing the door behind him. Grayson answered. Hello? It's Lila. Her voice was quiet, uncertain. From the diner. I remember. Right, of course. He heard her take a breath. I've been thinking about your offer. And I need to know if you're serious. Really serious. Because if this is just some rich guy impulse you're going to regret in a month, I can't. I won't put myself through that. I'm serious, Grayson said. More serious than I've ever been about anything. Okay. Another breath. Then I want to meet. Not at the diner. Somewhere we can actually talk. Really talk. My office? No, neutral ground. She paused. There's a park. Waterfront. You know it? I'll find it. Tomorrow, 2 o'clock. I have the morning shift, but I'm free after. I'll be there. Grayson? Her voice was small. I'm scared. Me too, he admitted. Okay, okay. I'll see you tomorrow. She hung up. Grayson stood there holding his phone, staring out at the city, and felt that dangerous thing bloom in his chest again. Hope. The waterfront park was nearly empty when Grayson arrived. Too cold for tourists, too early for the evening joggers. He found a bench overlooking the river and sat down to wait. Lila appeared 10 minutes later wearing jeans and a jacket that had seen better days. Her hair was down, longer than he'd realized. She spotted him and walked over, hands shoved deep in her pockets. "Hey," she said. "Hey." She sat down, leaving a careful distance between them. For a while, neither of them spoke. They just watched the river slide past, gray and cold and indifferent. "I grew up in foster care," Lila said finally. 12 different homes by the time I aged out at 18. Some were okay, most weren't. I learned pretty quick not to trust people who made big promises. That's fair. But I also learned that sometimes you have to take risks. Jump at opportunities even when they scare you. She turned to look at him. "This scares me." "I know." "Do you?" "Because from where I'm sitting, you're risking money. I'm risking everything, my body, my future, my whole life." "You're right." Grayson met her eyes. "And I can't promise it won't be hard, or that I won't die before the baby's born, or that any of this will work out the way we hope. But I can promise I'll do everything in my power to make sure you and the child are protected, legally, financially, every way that matters." "Why?" Lila's voice cracked slightly. "Why me? Really? Because when I watched you in that diner, I saw someone who gave a damn about the elderly couple, about the teenagers, about me, even though I was a stranger. That's rare. That's worth something." He paused. "My parents were good people. They worked hard, they loved me, but they died before they could see me become anything. I want my child to have what I didn't, a parent who's there. Who cares? Not because they're paid to, but because they choose to." "I don't know if I can do that," Lila whispered. "Be that person." "I think you already are." She wiped at her eyes. "This is crazy." "Yes. I could be making the biggest mistake of my life." "Maybe. But I'm going to do it anyway." She laughed, the sound wet and shaky. "I'm really going to do this." Grayson felt something loosen in his chest. "You're sure?" "No, but I'm doing it anyway." Lila turned to face him fully. "But I have conditions." "Name them." "First, I want everything in writing. Clear, no surprises." "Agreed. My lawyer's already working on it." "Second, I'm not doing this if you're going to treat me like an incubator. I'm a person. I need respect, honesty. You have my word." "Third," she hesitated, "I want to try, really try. Not just at being a parent, but at being, I don't know, a family maybe? Even if it's not traditional, even if it's weird." Grayson felt his throat tighten. "I'd like that." "Okay," Lila nodded. "Okay, then let's do this before I change my mind." They sat there on the bench as the afternoon light faded, two people about to embark on the strangest partnership either of them had ever known. And for the first time in months, Grayson thought that maybe, just maybe, dying wouldn't be the end of everything after all. The contract arrived 3 days later in a manila envelope thick enough to stop a bullet. Lila sat at her kitchen table, really just a folding card table wedged between her bed and her hot plate, and stared at it like it might explode. She'd agreed to this, shook hands with a dying billionaire in a waterfront park, and said yes to something that still didn't feel real. But holding the physical proof made her stomach twist. Her phone rang. Grayson's name lit up the screen. "Did you get it?" he asked. "Yeah, I'm looking at it now." "Don't sign anything yet. Read it first. All of it. If there's anything you don't like or don't understand, we change it." Lila flipped through the pages. The language was dense, legal, designed to protect everyone and trust no one. "There's like 50 pages here." "I know. I'm sorry. Richard, my lawyer, he doesn't do anything halfway." Grayson paused. "Do you want me to go through it with you? I can come over, or we can meet somewhere." "No." The word came out too fast. Lila caught herself. "I mean, I can read. I just need time." "Of course. Take all the time you need." But time was the problem, wasn't it? Time was the thing Grayson didn't have. Time was the reason she was sitting here reading a contract that promised her more money than she'd seen in her entire life in exchange for 9 months and a baby and a future she couldn't begin to imagine. "Lila?" Grayson's voice was careful. "Are you having second thoughts?" "I'm having about 1,000 thoughts." She rubbed her eyes. But second thoughts isn't one of them. Not yet. Okay, that's good. That's... Call me when you're done reading, or if you have questions. Anytime. He hung up. Lila set the phone down and pulled the contract closer. It took her 4 hours to read it all. Some sections she had to go through twice, 3 times, sounding out the legal terminology like a kid learning to read. But the core of it was straightforward enough. Grayson would cover all medical expenses related to the pregnancy and birth. He'd pay her a monthly stipend starting immediately, enough to quit both her jobs and focus on staying healthy. After the baby was born, she'd receive full custody with Grayson as the legal father. If he died before the child turned 18, a trust would activate. Millions. Enough to guarantee the kid would never want for anything. And if he lived, they'd co-parent, share decisions, build something that looked like a family even if it didn't fit any traditional definition. There were other clauses. Medical autonomy. All choices about her body and the pregnancy were hers alone. Privacy protections. An exit clause that let her walk away at any point before conception with a severance package that would still change her life. It was generous, almost suspiciously so. Lila picked up her phone and called the number Grayson had given her for Richard the lawyer. Ms. Hart. Richard's voice was smooth, professional. I was expecting your call. Why is this contract so favorable to me? I'm sorry? The terms, the money, the protections, it's all weighted in my favor. Why? Richard was quiet for a moment. Mr. Vale was very specific about what he wanted. He said, and I quote, I want her to feel safe. Make sure she feels safe. Something in Lila's chest tightened. He really said that? He did. And between you and me, Ms. Hart, I've known Grayson for 15 years. I've never seen him care about anything the way he cares about this. He barely knows me. Perhaps. But he knows what he wants you to represent for his child. Security, kindness, a chance at a real life. Richard cleared his throat. Do you have any questions about the contract itself? Just one. Section 12, subsection C. It says something about genetic testing? Standard procedure. We'd need to establish paternity for legal purposes, but that wouldn't happen until after the birth, and you'd have full say in how and when. Okay? Lila traced her finger over the signature line at the bottom of the last page. I think I'm ready to sign. Are you certain? You don't have to decide today. I'm certain. Then I'll arrange a meeting. Tomorrow, if that works for you? Tomorrow's fine. She hung up and sat there in her tiny apartment, surrounded by thrift store furniture and water-stained walls, and tried to imagine a different life. A life where she didn't wake up at 4 a.m. to work the breakfast shift. Where she could see a doctor without calculating whether she could afford rent that month. Where she could be the kind of mother she'd never had. The kind of mother a child deserved. Lila picked up a pen and signed her name. The clinic was nothing like Lila expected. She'd pictured something cold and clinical, all stainless steel and fluorescent lighting. Instead, it looked like an upscale hotel lobby. Soft music, comfortable chairs. A receptionist who smiled like she meant it. Ms. Hart? A woman in scrubs approached. I'm Dr. Chen. If you'll follow me. Grayson was already in the consultation room, sitting in one of those chairs that was trying too hard to look casual. He stood when Lila entered. Hey, he said. Hey. Dr. Chen gestured for them to sit. So, I understand you're interested in IVF. Lila glanced at Grayson. They discussed this part over the phone. In vitro fertilization. Clinical. Safe. No complicated emotions about how the baby was conceived. Yes, Grayson said. We want to do this right. Good. Dr. Chen pulled out a tablet. Let's talk about the process. First, we'll need to run some tests. Make sure you're both healthy candidates. Lila, that means blood work, an ultrasound, a full physical. Grayson, we'll need a semen sample and genetic screening. Lila felt her face heat. This was happening. This was really happening. How long does the whole process take? Grayson asked. Depends on several factors. If everything looks good, we can start hormone treatments within a few weeks. The actual implantation usually happens about a month after that. Dr. Chen looked at Lila. I won't lie to you, the hormones can be rough. Mood swings, bloating, headaches. Some women handle it fine. Others struggle. I can handle it, Lila said. I'm sure you can, but I want you to know what you're signing up for. Dr. Chen's expression softened. This isn't an easy process, even in the best circumstances, and I understand your situation is somewhat unusual. That's putting it mildly, Lila muttered. Grayson reached over and squeezed her hand. The gesture surprised her. His palm was warm, steady. We'll get through it, he said. Together, Lila added, and meant it. The test took 2 weeks. 2 weeks of needles and waiting rooms and questions that felt invasive even when Lila knew they were necessary. She'd never had health insurance before. Not real insurance, anyway. The kind of discount plan she'd scraped together at her old job barely covered a basic checkup. This was different. This was every test imaginable, run twice to be sure. You're very healthy, Dr. Chen told her at the follow-up appointment. Good hormone levels, strong ovarian reserve, no red flags. That's good, right? That's excellent. Dr. Chen pulled up some charts on her screen. Based on your age and health profile, I'd say you have about a 60% chance of success on the first implantation attempt. If that doesn't work, we try again. Most of my patients achieve pregnancy within 3 cycles. 60%. Better odds than Lila usually got in life. What about Grayson? She asked. Dr. Chen's expression shifted, just slightly, but enough for Lila to notice. Mr. Vale's results are more complicated. The cancer and the treatments he's undergone have affected his sperm count and motility. We were able to collect viable samples, but the numbers are lower than we'd like. Lila's stomach dropped. Does that mean this won't work? No, it just means we'll need to be strategic. We'll use ICSSI, intracytoplasmic sperm injection. Basically, we'll inject a single sperm directly into each egg. It bypasses a lot of the natural barriers and increases our chances significantly. But there's still a chance it won't work. There's always a chance, Dr. Chen said gently. But I wouldn't have agreed to take you on as patients if I didn't think we had a real shot at success. Lila nodded, trying to process it all. In the waiting room, Grayson sat hunched over his phone, typing furiously. He looked up when she came out. Well? Dr. Chen says I'm good to go. Healthy as a horse, apparently. Relief flooded his face. That's great. When can we start? Next week. I start the injections next week. Lila sat down beside him. She told me about your test results, too. Grayson's jaw tightened. Yeah. Are you okay? I'm fine. Grayson, I said I'm fine. He stood abruptly. I need to make a call. I'll meet you outside. He walked off before Lila could respond. She sat there, watching him disappear around a corner, and realized how little she actually knew about this man whose baby she'd agreed to carry. The hormone injections were worse than Dr. Chen had warned. Lila had expected discomfort. She'd expected some side effects. She hadn't expected to feel like her body was staging a revolt. The first few days were manageable. A little soreness at the injection sites, some bloating. But by day 5, her breasts ached so badly she could barely stand to wear a bra. Her head pounded. Her emotions swung from rage to tears to numbness in the span of an hour. She called in sick to the diner for the first time in 3 years. You sound terrible, her manager said. I feel terrible. The flu? Something like that. She hung up and immediately started crying. Not because she felt bad physically, though she did, but because lying made her feel like garbage. She'd worked at Rosie's for 6 years. They'd been decent to her, and now she was lying, preparing to quit without notice as soon as the pregnancy took. Her phone buzzed. Grayson. How are you feeling? Lila stared at the message. How was she feeling? Like her insides were on fire. Like she'd made a terrible mistake. Like she wanted to throw her phone across the room. She typed back. Fine. 3 dots appeared immediately. Then, you're a terrible liar. How would you know? I can hear it in your texts. Despite herself, Lila almost smiled. That doesn't make sense. Neither does lying to someone who's paying for your medical care. If you're struggling, tell me. Lila hesitated, then gave in. The hormones are kicking my ass. What do you need? I don't know. A new body? I can't help with that. But I can bring food. Ice cream, heating pads, whatever helps. You don't have to do that. I know. I want to. 20 minutes later, Grayson knocked on her apartment door carrying 2 bags from a grocery store Lila couldn't usually afford. He took one look at her, unwashed hair, sweatpants, eyes swollen from crying, and didn't comment. "I didn't know what kind of ice cream you liked," he said, unpacking the bags. "So I got 6 different kinds." "That's ridiculous." "Probably." He pulled out heating pads, ginger tea, crackers, chocolate, and a bottle of prenatal vitamins. Dr. Chen said these might help with the nausea. "I'm not pregnant yet." The nausea is from the hormones. Still, he set the vitamins on her counter. Couldn't hurt. Lila watched him move around her tiny kitchen like he belonged there. It was surreal. This man who lived in a penthouse and ran a billion-dollar company was standing in her apartment that smelled like mildew and old takeout, unpacking ice cream like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Why are you being so nice?" she asked. Grayson stopped. "What?" "This whole thing. You could have just had your assistant drop stuff off. You didn't have to come yourself." "I wanted to check on you." "Why?" He turned to face her fully. "Because you're going through hell to do something incredibly generous for me. The least I can do is show up." "It's not generous. You're paying me." "Money doesn't make it less generous." Grayson leaned against her counter. "Most people wouldn't do this for any amount of money. You know that, right?" Lila picked at her sweatpants. "I needed the money. Maybe at first, but you had an out. The contract gave you an exit clause. You could have walked away with enough cash to change your life and never looked back." His voice was quiet. "You're still here. That's not just about money." "Then what is it about?" "I don't know. You tell me." Lila thought about it, really thought about it. "I guess I wanted to matter, just once. Do something that meant something." "You matter," Grayson said. "You've always mattered. You just couldn't see it." She looked up at him, this man who was dying and fighting and somehow still finding ways to be kind to a waitress he barely knew. "I'm scared this won't work." "Me too." "What if we're doing all this and it's for nothing?" "Then we tried." "That's more than most people can say." Grayson moved to sit beside her on the couch that was really just a futon held together by hope and duct tape. "I've been thinking, if this works, when this works, I want to be involved. Not just financially. I want to be there. Doctor's appointments, ultrasounds, all of it." "You don't have to." "I want to," he interrupted. "I know we're doing this clinically. I know it's not a traditional situation. But that's going to be my kid in there. I don't want to miss anything." Lila felt something shift in her chest. "Okay. Yeah? Yeah." She managed to smile. "Fair warning, though, I'm probably going to be a nightmare for the next few weeks." "I can handle it." "Can you handle me crying at commercials?" "Absolutely." "What about rage eating ice cream at 2 in the morning?" "I'll bring a bigger spoon." This time Lila's smile was real. "You're kind of weird, you know that?" Says the woman who agreed to have a baby with a stranger. Touché. They sat there together, eating ice cream straight from the carton, and for the first time since signing that contract, Lila thought maybe this crazy plan might actually work. The implantation was scheduled for a Tuesday. Lila had expected to be nervous, but when the day arrived, she felt oddly calm. Maybe it was the Valium they'd given her. Maybe it was the fact that Grayson showed up at her apartment at 6 in the morning with coffee and bagels and a playlist he'd made of what he called calming but not boring music. "You made a playlist?" Lila asked, scrolling through the songs on his phone. "I couldn't sleep, so I figured I'd do something useful." "This is your version of useful? You don't like it?" "I didn't say that." Lila hit play. Something instrumental and gentle filled her apartment. "It's nice. Weird, but nice." At the clinic, Dr. Chen walked them through the procedure one more time. It was quick, she promised, painless. Lila would lie back, they'd insert the embryo, and then she'd rest for a bit before going home. "Simple as that?" Lila asked. "Simple as that," Dr. Chen smiled. "The hard part is the waiting." Grayson squeezed Lila's hand. "We're good at waiting." The procedure took less than 15 minutes. Lila stared at the ceiling tiles and counted them, 42, while Dr. Chen worked. Grayson stood beside her the whole time, still holding her hand, his thumb tracing small circles against her palm. When it was done, Dr. Chen told her to rest for 30 minutes, then she could go home. "Now what?" Lila asked. "Now we wait. 2 weeks. Then we'll do a blood test to see if it took." 2 weeks. 14 days. 336 hours. In the recovery room, Lila lay on a bed that was trying too hard to be comfortable while Grayson sat in a chair that was definitely not trying hard enough. He looked exhausted, gray under his eyes, his hands trembled slightly. "When was the last time you slept?" Lila asked. "I sleep." "That's not an answer." Grayson rubbed his face. "I've been having trouble lately. The medication, probably. Makes my brain too loud." "What does it say?" "Your brain." "A lot of things. Most of them not helpful." Lila shifted, trying to get comfortable. "Try me." "It says I'm selfish, that I'm asking you to risk everything for something that might not even matter if I die before the kid is old enough to remember me." "That's not selfish. That's human." "Is it?" Grayson looked at her. "Because some days I can't tell the difference." "Hey." Lila waited until he met her eyes. "I chose this. Nobody forced me. And yeah, maybe it's weird and complicated and nothing like what either of us planned. But I'm here because I want to be. You get that, right?" "I'm trying to." "Try harder." She said it gently, without judgment. "Because if we're going to do this, really do this, we both have to believe it matters. Even if it's hard. Even if it scares us." Grayson nodded slowly. "You're right. I usually am. I'll remember that." A nurse came to check on Lila, asked how she was feeling, and gave her a list of post-procedure instructions. No heavy lifting, no strenuous exercise, lots of rest. "Can I work?" Lila asked. The nurse hesitated. "Light work should be fine, but listen to your body. If you're tired, rest." After the nurse left, Grayson said, "You're not going back to the diner." "Excuse me?" "The contract stipulates. I know what the contract says, but I need to work. I'll go crazy sitting around my apartment waiting." "Then don't sit around your apartment. Go somewhere, take a class, travel. Anything but standing on your feet for 8 hours slinging coffee." "That's my life you're talking about." "It doesn't have to be anymore." Grayson's voice was firm. "You signed the contract. You're receiving the stipend. You don't need those jobs." "Maybe I want them." "Why?" "Because they're mine." Lila sat up, suddenly angry. "Because I built them from nothing and they mean something to me even if they don't mean anything to you." "That's not fair." "Isn't it?" She swung her legs over the side of the bed. "You swoop in with your money and your contracts and your big plans, and suddenly my whole life is supposed to change. Well, maybe I'm not ready for that yet." "Lila, I'm going back to work. Part-time at least. And you don't get a vote." They stared at each other. Grayson's jaw was tight. Lila's heart was racing. This was their first real fight, and it was happening in a fertility clinic recovery room while potential life was maybe taking root in her body. Finally, Grayson sighed. "Fine. Part-time. But the second you feel bad, you call me. Deal?" "Deal." "And you let Marcus drive you. No more taking the bus." Grayson: "That's my line. Take it or leave it." Lila wanted to argue, but she was tired and her body ached, and honestly, the idea of not fighting the bus schedule sounded pretty good. "Fine. But I'm not riding in the back like I'm some kind of front seat. I'll tell Marcus." "Okay then." "Okay." They looked at each other, and despite everything, Lila felt herself smile. "We're really bad at this." "At what?" "I don't know, partnership, co-parenting, whatever this is." "We'll get better," Grayson said. "We have to." 2 weeks later, Lila sat in Dr. Chen's office and peed on what felt like the 100th stick of her life. But this one was different. This one might actually matter. "How long?" she asked the nurse. 3 minutes. 3 minutes felt like 3 hours. Lila washed her hands twice, paced the small bathroom, checked her phone even though she'd only been in there for 90 seconds. When she came out, Grayson was in the waiting room, looking like he might throw up. "You okay?" Lila asked. "Not even a little bit." "Yeah, me neither." Dr. Chen appeared. "Ready?" They followed her into the office. The test sat on her desk, face down. "Before we look," Dr. Chen said, "I want you both to know that if this didn't work, it's not the end. We can try again. We will try again if that's what you want." "Just tell us," Grayson said. Dr. Chen flipped the test over. 2 lines. Positive. Lila stopped breathing. "Congratulations," Dr. Chen said, her smile warm and genuine. "You're pregnant." The words didn't feel real. Lila looked at Grayson, who had gone completely still, his eyes fixed on that little plastic stick. "We'll do a blood test to confirm," Dr. Chen continued. "But based on the HCG levels, I'd say you're about 4 weeks along. Everything looks good." 4 weeks. A month. A tiny cluster of cells that might become a person. "Holy shit," Lila whispered. Grayson laughed. It was a broken, disbelieving sound. "Holy shit," he echoed. Dr. Chen gave them a moment, then started talking about next steps. Prenatal vitamins, follow-up appointments, things to avoid. Lila heard maybe half of it. Her ears were ringing. Outside, in the parking lot, Grayson leaned against his car and put his face in his hands. "Are you crying?" Lila asked. "Maybe." "Is that allowed? The big tough billionaire crying? I don't care." He looked up, and yeah, his eyes were wet. "We did it. We did it," Lila repeated, and then she was crying too and laughing, and Grayson pulled her into a hug that felt less like gratitude and more like relief. They stood there in the parking lot, two people who'd been strangers a few months ago, holding each other while a brand new life started growing in the space between them. And for the first time in longer than she could remember, Lila thought that maybe, just maybe, everything was going to be okay. The nausea hit at week 6 like a freight train with a personal vendetta. Lila had read about morning sickness, heard other women describe it, but nothing prepared her for the reality of waking up every day feeling like she'd been poisoned. "It's supposed to be morning sickness," she told Grayson over the phone, her head resting against the cool bathroom tile. "This is all day, all night. Please let me die, sickness." "What can I do?" "Invent a time machine so I can go back and slap myself for agreeing to this." "I'll get right on that." She could hear him typing in the background. "In the meantime, I'm sending Marcus with some things Dr. Chen recommended. Ginger chews, crackers, this weird tea that's supposed to help." "Nothing helps." "Try anyway, please." Lila hung up and immediately threw up again. She'd quit both her jobs the week before, finally admitting that Grayson was right about not being able to work through this. The diner manager had been disappointed but understanding. The other restaurant less so. But it didn't matter anymore. She had bigger problems than hurt feelings and burned bridges. Marcus arrived an hour later with 3 grocery bags and a sympathetic expression. "Mr. Vale wanted me to tell you he would have come himself, but he's stuck in meetings until 6. "It's fine." Lila took the bags. "Thank you. He also wanted me to give you this." Marcus handed her an envelope. Inside was a note in Grayson's precise handwriting. "I know this is awful. I know you're miserable, but you're not doing it alone. Call me if you need anything, and I mean anything, even if it's just someone to complain to about how much you hate me right now." Despite feeling like death, Lila smiled. She called him at 2 in the morning when the nausea was so bad she couldn't sleep. "I hate you," she said when he answered. "I know." He sounded wide awake. "On a scale of 1 to 10? 15. "That's fair." She heard rustling on his end like he was sitting up. "Want me to come over?" "And do what? Hold my hair while I puke?" "If that's what you need." Lila closed her eyes. "No, I just needed to hear another human voice." "Then I'll stay on the phone." "You don't have to." "I'm not going anywhere." They stayed on the phone for 2 hours. Sometimes talking, mostly just existing in the same space, even though they were miles apart. Grayson told her about a deal he was working on, some tech acquisition that bored even him. Lila complained about her upstairs neighbor who seemed to rearrange furniture at 3 in the morning. Neither of them mentioned the baby. Neither of them had to. By week 8, the nausea started to ease. Not disappear, but become manageable. Lila could eat without immediately regretting it, could stand upright without the world spinning, could think about something other than survival. "You look better," Grayson said at their next doctor's appointment. "I feel almost human." "Almost?" "I'm still growing another person inside me. Human might be overselling it." Dr. Chen came in with the ultrasound machine. "Ready to see your baby?" Lila's stomach dropped. Not from nausea this time, from something else. Something that felt like fear and excitement crashed together. "Ready," Grayson said, but his voice shook. The gel was cold. The wand pressed against Lila's stomach, and then there it was on the screen. A blob. A tiny, flickering blob that didn't look like anything recognizable. There. Dr. Chen pointed. That's the heartbeat. The sound filled the room, fast, strong, impossibly real. Lila couldn't breathe, couldn't think. That was a heartbeat, a separate heartbeat. Inside her, she looked at Grayson. His face had gone pale. He was staring at the screen like it held the secrets of the universe. Everything looks perfect, Dr. Chen continued. Right on track for your due date. July 15th, give or take. July, summer, 7 months away. Can you tell the gender yet? Grayson asked. Not for another month or so, but we can do genetic testing if you want to know earlier. Lila and Grayson looked at each other. They hadn't discussed this. I don't want to know, Lila said. Not yet. Is that okay? More than okay. Grayson's voice was rough. Whatever you want. Dr. Chen printed out pictures of the ultrasound. Grainy, black and white, barely recognizable. Lila held one and felt something crack open in her chest. This wasn't theoretical anymore. This wasn't a contract or an arrangement or a desperate plan. This was a person, a whole person who was depending on her to not screw this up. In the parking lot, Grayson leaned against his car again. It was becoming his thing when emotions got too big. That was real, he said. Yeah, I mean, I knew it was real, logically, but seeing it, I know. Lila looked down at the ultrasound picture. We're really doing this. Having second thoughts? Third, fourth, and fifth thoughts. But I'm not backing out if that's what you're asking. Grayson pushed off the car. I want to take you to dinner. What? Dinner, a real one. Not hospital cafeteria food or takeout. An actual restaurant where we sit down and talk like normal people. We're not normal people. Then we'll pretend. He pulled out his phone. I know a place. Quiet. Good food. They won't care if you need to run to the bathroom 6 times. That's the most romantic thing anyone's ever said to me. I'm serious, Lila. We're in this together. We should at least get to know each other. She wanted to say no. Wanted to keep the distance that made this manageable. But looking at him standing there with his phone out and hope on his face, she couldn't. Okay, Lila said. Dinner. The restaurant was small and tucked away in a part of Portland Lila had never been to. The kind of place where reservations were made months in advance and the menu changed daily based on what was fresh. Grayson had reserved a corner table away from other diners. How did you even get a table here? Lila asked, looking around at the exposed brick and candlelight. I know the owner. Of course you do. A waiter appeared with water and menus. Lila scanned the options and felt her stomach twist. Everything sounded amazing and nauseating at the same time. I can't eat any of this, she said. Why not? The baby hates everything, except crackers and ginger ale. Those are apparently acceptable. Grayson flagged down the waiter. Do you have plain pasta? Just butter and salt? Of course, sir. And crackers. A whole basket of crackers. After the waiter left, Lila said, You didn't have to do that. I know, but I wanted to. Grayson folded his hands on the table. Tell me something about yourself. Something real, not just surface stuff. Like what? I don't know. What did you want to be when you were a kid? Lila laughed. A marine biologist. Seriously? I was obsessed with whales. Had every book about them from the library. Used to watch documentaries and dream about studying them. She picked at her napkin. Then I aged out of foster care and realized college wasn't happening, so I became a waitress instead. You could still go to school. It's not too late. I'm about to have a baby. After, Grayson said. When things settle down, if you wanted to. Maybe. Lila didn't let herself think about it too hard. Dreams had a way of turning into disappointments. What about you? Did you always want to be a billionaire? Nobody wants to be a billionaire when they're a kid. They want to be astronauts or firefighters or whatever sounds cool. He smiled. I wanted to be a teacher. Really? My 3rd grade teacher, Mrs. Patterson. She was the first person who ever made me feel smart. Made me believe I could be more than just some poor kid from the wrong side of town. His smile faded. After my parents died, I stopped thinking about teaching. Started thinking about money, security. Making sure I'd never be helpless again. And you succeeded. Did I? Grayson looked at her. I have more money than I know what to do with, but I'm still helpless, still dying. Money didn't fix that. The food arrived, Lila picked at her pasta while Grayson told her about building Vale Industries from nothing. How he'd started with a small tech company, worked 80-hour weeks, made deals that would have destroyed him if they'd gone wrong. How he'd sacrificed relationships and sleep and any semblance of a normal life in pursuit of something he couldn't even name. "I thought if I just made enough money I'd feel safe," he said. "But it never happened. There was always another deal, another acquisition, another thing to prove. And now? Now I realize I was chasing the wrong thing." He set down his fork. "The diagnosis, it clarified everything, made me see how much time I wasted on things that don't matter. Your company matters. All those people you employ, they matter. Maybe. But they'll be fine without me. The company will survive. It always does." Grayson's voice dropped. "But a kid? A kid needs their father, and I might not be around long enough to be one." "You don't know that," Lila said. "The treatments could work. You could have years." "I could, or I could have months." He met her eyes. "Either way, I need you to promise me something." "What?" "If I die before the baby's old enough to remember me, tell them I loved them. Tell them I wanted to be there. Tell them—" His voice cracked. "Tell them I tried." Lila reached across the table and took his hand. "I promise, but you're going to be around to tell them yourself." "You sound pretty sure about that." "I have to be, because if I start thinking about doing this alone, I'll panic." She squeezed his hand. "So you're going to live. Deal?" "Deal." They finished dinner, talking about lighter things. Books they'd read. Movies they loved. The terrible reality TV show Lila was addicted to that Grayson pretended to judge but clearly enjoyed hearing about. By the time dessert arrived, Lila realized she was having fun. Actually having fun, not just going through motions. When was the last time that happened? "Thank you," she said as they left the restaurant. "For what?" "This. Dinner. Treating me like a person instead of just an incubator." Grayson stopped walking. "You were never just an incubator. Not for a second." "Then what am I?" He thought about it. "A partner, a friend maybe, someone I'm grateful to know. Even though I called you at 2 in the morning to tell you I hated you?" "Especially because of that." He smiled. "You're real, Lila. You don't pretend. I need that right now." Marcus drove them back to Lila's apartment. Grayson walked her to the door even though she told him he didn't have to. "I had a good time tonight," Lila said. "Me too. We should do it again sometime, when I'm not constantly nauseous." "I'd like that." They stood there in the hallway, neither quite ready to end the evening. Finally, Grayson leaned in and kissed her cheek. Quick, gentle, nothing more. "Good night, Lila." "Good night." She watched him walk away, then went inside and sat on her couch and touched the spot where he'd kissed her. It hadn't meant anything, just a gesture. But her skin still tingled. This was dangerous territory. Getting attached, starting to care beyond the arrangement. But sitting there with the ultrasound picture on her coffee table and the memory of Grayson's smile in her head, Lila couldn't bring herself to regret it. At 12 weeks, Lila's body started changing in ways she couldn't hide. Her jeans didn't fit anymore. Her breasts had gone up 2 sizes. The exhaustion that had plagued her first trimester began to lift, replaced by something that almost felt like energy. Grayson noticed immediately. "You're glowing." "I'm sweating. It's not the same thing." "No, seriously, you look different. Good different." They were at another doctor's appointment, waiting for Dr. Chen. These visits had become routine, every 2 weeks, like clockwork. Grayson never missed one. "How are you feeling?" Lila asked him. He looked thinner than last month, more tired. "Fine." "You're lying." "I'm managing." He shifted in his chair. "The treatment is working, slowly, but working." "That's good." "Yeah." He didn't sound convinced. Dr. Chen came in before Lila could push harder. "How's my favorite patient?" "Tired of peeing every 5 minutes, Lila said. "That's normal. It gets worse before it gets better." Dr. Chen pulled up Lila's chart on her tablet. "Your blood work looks great. Blood pressure's good. Weight gain is right on track. Any concerns?" "When do I start showing? Really showing?" "Some women pop at 12 weeks. Others take longer. Every pregnancy is different." Dr. Chen smiled. "But based on your body type, I'd say you've got another month before it's obvious to strangers." "A month?" Lila tried to imagine being visibly pregnant, tried to imagine strangers looking at her belly and knowing. "Can we do another ultrasound?" Grayson asked. "Absolutely. Let's see how this little one is growing." The baby was bigger this time, still blob-like but with visible features. Lila could make out the head, tiny arms and legs, could see it moving, stretching. "Active little thing," Dr. Chen commented. "That's a good sign." Grayson stared at the screen like he was memorizing every pixel. "Is it supposed to move that much?" "Completely normal. You'll start feeling it soon," Dr. Chen said to Lila. "Little flutters at first, like butterflies." Lila watched the baby kick and twist and felt something she couldn't name. This wasn't just cells dividing anymore. This was a person with preferences and personality, a person who was going to enter the world and change everything. "Do you want to know the sex?" Dr. Chen asked. Lila looked at Grayson. They'd agreed to wait, but now, watching this tiny person somersault inside her, she wanted to know, wanted to be able to picture them more clearly. "Yes," they said at the same time. Dr. Chen smiled. "Let me get a better angle." She moved the wand, peering at the screen. "Okay, looks like you're having a girl." A girl. Lila's vision blurred. A daughter. She was having a daughter. Grayson made a sound, not quite a sob, but close. When Lila looked at him, tears were streaming down his face. "A girl," he whispered. "Congratulations," Dr. Chen said softly. They sat there in silence after the appointment ended. Dr. Chen had given them time, left them alone with the screen frozen on their daughter's face. Grayson held Lila's hand like he was drowning, and she was the only thing keeping him afloat. "I'm going to have a daughter," he said. "We're going to have a daughter. What if I die before she's born?" "You won't. But what if I do? What if she never knows me?" Lila sat up, the gel still wet on her stomach. "Then I'll tell her everything. I'll tell her about the night you walked into a diner in the rain, about how you wanted her so badly you made a deal with a stranger, about how you cried the first time you saw her on a screen." She wiped his tears with her thumb. "She'll know you, Grayson. I'll make sure of it." He pulled her into a hug, awkward because of the exam table and the medical equipment, but neither of them cared. They held each other while their daughter floated between them, unaware of the weight she already carried. "Thank you," Grayson said into her hair. "For what?" "For this, for her, for being exactly who I needed." Lila didn't trust herself to speak. She just held him tighter. The pregnancy became real after that, not just physically, but emotionally. They started talking about names over dinner at Lila's apartment. Grayson had taken to bringing takeout twice a week, started discussing nurseries and schools and what kind of life they wanted their daughter to have. "I don't want her to grow up like I did," Grayson said one night, picking at his Thai food. "Scared, always waiting for the other shoe to drop." "Then we won't let her." Lila said it with more confidence than she felt. "But what if my being sick makes her scared anyway? What if she grows up afraid of losing people?" "Kids are resilient. She'll be okay." "How do you know?" "Because she'll have me. And you, for as long as possible. And we'll love her enough to make up for the scary parts." Grayson set down his food. "You really believe that?" "I have to. Otherwise this whole thing is too terrifying to think about." He came around the coffee table and sat beside her on the futon, close enough that their shoulders touched. "I'm glad it's you." "What?" "Doing this with me. I'm glad it's you." Lila felt heat rise in her cheeks. "You're just saying that because I'm the only one who agreed." "No, I'm saying it because it's true." He turned to look at her. "You're strong and kind and braver than you think. Our daughter is lucky to have you as a mother. You don't know that yet. I could be terrible at it. You won't be. You can't know that either." "Yes, I can." He said it with such certainty that Lila almost believed him. They sat there in her tiny apartment with half-eaten takeout containers scattered around them, and Lila felt the space between them shrink. Not physically, emotionally, like they were becoming something more than partners in a strange arrangement. It scared her, but it also felt right. At 16 weeks, Lila felt the first flutter. She was lying in bed, half asleep, when something moved inside her, gentle, like a fish brushing against the inside of her stomach. She called Grayson immediately. "I felt her," she said when he answered. "What?" He sounded groggy. She'd woken him. The baby. I felt her move. Are you sure? Pretty sure. Unless I have really weird indigestion. She heard rustling. I'm coming over. Grayson, it's 2 in the morning. I don't care. He showed up 20 minutes later in sweatpants and a t-shirt, looking more disheveled than she'd ever seen him. His hair stuck up in the back. He hadn't bothered with shoes, just slipped on sneakers without socks. You didn't have to come, Lila said, letting him in. I wanted to. He looked at her stomach like he could see through to the baby. Can you still feel her? Not right now. It comes and goes. Can I? He hesitated. Can I try to feel? Lila's breath caught. You won't be able to. Not from the outside. Not yet. I know, but I want to try anyway. She lifted her shirt. Her stomach had started to curve just slightly, enough to notice if you knew to look. Grayson placed his hand there, palm flat, fingers spread. Anything? He asked. Not yet. They stood there in her apartment at 2 in the morning, his hand on her stomach, both of them barely breathing, waiting. And then, there, a flutter, stronger this time. Lila's eyes went wide. Did you feel that? I don't think so. Was it? It happened again. Definitely movement. Definitely their daughter saying hello. There. Lila grabbed his hand, pressed it firmer. Feel it? Maybe? I'm not. And then his face changed. Oh, I felt that. They looked at each other, his hand still on her stomach, her hand covering his, their daughter moving between them like she knew they were there, waiting for her. She's real, Grayson whispered. She's real, Lila echoed. He pulled her into a hug, slow and careful, like she might break. Lila wrapped her arms around him and let herself lean into it, let herself feel safe for maybe the first time in her life. When he pulled back, his eyes were wet again. He cried a lot now. Lila had stopped commenting on it. I should go, he said. Let you sleep. You could stay. The word surprised both of them. Grayson's eyebrows went up. On the futon. Where else? I just meant, I don't want to assume. Grayson. She touched his arm. It's late. You're tired. The futon's uncomfortable, but it's better than driving home. Stay. He looked at her for a long moment. Okay, if you're sure. I'm sure. She gave him a blanket and a pillow that had seen better days, watched him try to get comfortable on furniture that was definitely not designed for someone his height. He looked ridiculous, knees bent, one arm hanging off the side. This is terrible, he said. I warned you. I'll survive. Lila climbed into her bed, really just a mattress on the floor, and turned off the light. In the darkness, she could hear Grayson breathing, could feel his presence filling her small space. Lila? His voice was quiet. Yeah? Thank you for letting me be here, for all of this. Thank you for showing up. I'll always show up, I promise. She believed him. That was the scary part. She actually believed him. Sleep came slowly. Every time Lila started to drift off, she'd feel the baby move again. Little reminders that her body wasn't just hers anymore, that she was responsible for another life now, that everything was about to change in ways she couldn't begin to predict. Across the room, Grayson's breathing evened out. He was asleep, finally, looking peaceful despite the terrible futon and the uncertain future, looking like maybe he'd found something worth fighting for. Lila touched her stomach and felt her daughter respond. A kick this time, stronger than before. It's okay, she whispered. We've got you, both of us. And in that moment, in her tiny apartment with a dying billionaire asleep on her futon and a daughter growing inside her, Lila thought that maybe, against all odds, they were actually becoming a family. The apartment hunt started at 20 weeks when Lila's landlord stopped by to fix a leaking pipe and saw her stomach. You're pregnant, he said, like it was an accusation. Yes. The lease says no children. Lila blinked. I haven't had the baby yet. But you will. And this place isn't suitable for a kid anyway. Too small. No safety features. He crossed his arms. I'm going to need you out by the end of your lease. That's 3 months. After he left, Lila sat on her futon and tried not to cry. She'd lived here for 4 years. It was a dump, but it was her dump. And now she had 3 months to find somewhere else while visibly pregnant and unemployed. She called Grayson. "I'm getting evicted," she said when he picked up. "What? Why?" "Apparently my lease prohibits children, which is probably illegal, but I can't afford a lawyer to fight it." "I can afford a lawyer. I don't want to fight. I just want somewhere to live that won't fall apart when the baby gets here." She pressed her palm against her forehead. "I'll start looking tomorrow. Find something affordable." "Or," Grayson said slowly, "you could move in with me." Lila froze. "What?" "I have a 4-bedroom penthouse. 3 of those bedrooms are completely empty. You could have your own space, your own bathroom. There's room for a nursery, and you wouldn't have to worry about rent or leases or landlords who are probably violating fair housing laws." "Grayson, just think about it, please. It makes sense practically. You're having my daughter. We're going to be co-parenting. Living together would make things easier. Or incredibly complicated, maybe. But it would solve your immediate problem." He paused. "Come see it at least. If you hate it, we'll figure something else out." The penthouse was ridiculous. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, hardwood floors that probably cost more than Lila had earned in her entire life. A kitchen with appliances she didn't know how to use. Everything was sleek and modern and completely impersonal, like a hotel room that had been decorated by someone who'd never actually lived in a home. "This is where you live?" Lila asked, standing in the massive living room. "Technically, I'm not here much." Grayson walked to the windows. "I bought it 5 years ago because my financial advisor said it was a good investment, but it never felt like mine." "It's huge. Too huge for one person." He turned to face her, "but maybe not too huge for 3. Lila walked through the space, her footsteps echoing on the hardwood. The guest bedrooms were bigger than her entire apartment. Each had its own bathroom, walk-in closet, enough space to do cartwheels if she wanted. "Which one would be the nursery?" she asked. Grayson led her to the room closest to the master bedroom. "I was thinking this one. Good light. Close enough to hear her at night. We could paint it, add whatever furniture you want, make it feel warm. It would take a lot to make this place feel warm." "Then we'll do a lot." He leaned against the doorframe. "I know it's not perfect. I know it's weird. But you wouldn't have to worry about money or space or creepy landlords. And I'd be here. If you needed anything. If the baby needed anything." Lila touched her stomach. Their daughter was doing somersaults today, like she knew something big was happening. "Can I think about it?" "Take all the time you need." She thought about it for 3 days. Made a list of pros and cons that got longer every time she looked at it. Called the one friend she still had from her foster care days and talked through it until they were both exhausted. "What's stopping you?" her friend asked. "I don't know. It feels like crossing a line." "You're already having his baby. What line is left to cross?" "Fair point." Lila called Grayson. Okay. "Okay, what?" "I'll move in, but I have conditions." "Name them." "I pay rent. Not market rate, but something. I'm not a freeloader." "Lila, that's the deal. Take it or leave it." She could hear him sigh. "Fine. $1 a month. 1,000. 200, and that's only because I know you won't agree to less. 500. 300, final offer." "Deal." Lila felt something loosen in her chest. "And I want my own space. No weird expectations about us being together all the time. You'll have complete privacy. I promise." "Okay then, when do I move?" "Whenever you want. Tomorrow if you're ready." Lila looked around her tiny apartment, at the futon that had cradled her through countless bad nights, at the walls she'd stared at while wondering if her life would ever be different, at the space that had been hers and only hers for 4 years. "Give me a week," she said. Moving day was chaos. Lila didn't have much. Most of her furniture was garbage that wasn't worth transporting, but she had books and clothes and kitchen supplies she'd collected over the years. Marcus helped her load everything into boxes while Grayson supervised, looking pale and tired. "You okay?" Lila asked him quietly. "Just a rough week." "Treatment?" "Yeah, new medication. My body's not happy about it." He managed a weak smile. "But I'm fine. Let's focus on getting you moved." The penthouse felt even bigger with her stuff scattered around. Her thrift store dishes looked absurd in the designer kitchen. Her worn books seemed out of place on the built-in shelves. But Grayson insisted on helping her unpack, finding spots for everything like it all belonged there. "This should be in the living room," he said, holding up a framed photo of the ocean. It's the only art you own. Let's display it. It's just a postcard I framed. So? It's yours. That makes it important. He hung it on the wall, centering it carefully. The postcard looked ridiculous on the massive wall, tiny and cheap. But Grayson stepped back and nodded like he'd just installed a masterpiece. Perfect, he said. That night, Lila lay in a bed that was too soft in a room that was too big and listened to the city hum below. Down the hall, Grayson was in his own room, probably not sleeping either. Between them, empty space that felt both too much and not enough. Her phone buzzed. Text from Grayson. You settling in okay? Weird but good. Your guest bed is more comfortable than anything I've ever slept on. Wait until you try the bathtub. It has jets. Rich people are ridiculous, says the woman now living in a penthouse. Temporarily. This isn't permanent. Could be, if you wanted. Lila stared at that message for a long time before responding. Let's see how we survive living together first. Fair enough. Good night, Lila. Good night. Living together was strange. Not bad, just strange. They developed routines without meaning to. Grayson made coffee every morning before Lila woke up, leaving a cup on the counter for her. Lila cooked dinner most nights, simple things that didn't make her nauseous, and Grayson always insisted on cleaning up. They watched TV together in the evenings, some mindless show neither of them cared about, just needing the company. We're like roommates, Lila said one night. Roommates who are having a baby together. Weird roommates. The weirdest. Grayson shifted on the couch, wincing slightly. You're in pain. I'm fine. You keep saying that, but you're not fine. Lila turned to face him fully. What's going on with the treatment? Grayson was quiet for a moment. It's not working as well as they hoped. The tumors are shrinking, but slowly. Too slowly. Her stomach dropped. What does that mean? It means we try something else. There's an experimental program, more aggressive. Better success rates, but worse side effects. How much worse? Pretty bad. I'll basically be sick all the time for a few months. But if it works, I could have years instead of months. Then do it. It's not that simple. The timing is tricky. If I start now, I'll be in the worst of it when you're in your third trimester. When you might actually need me. Lila grabbed his hand. I need you alive more than I need you comfortable. Do the treatment. Lila, I'm serious. We'll figure out the other stuff. But you have to fight this. For you, for the baby, for us. He looked at her with something that might have been hope or might have been fear. Okay. I'll talk to my doctor tomorrow. The new treatment started 2 weeks later. Grayson had warned her it would be bad, but nothing prepared Lila for the reality of watching him deteriorate. Within days, he was constantly nauseous, barely eating, spending most of his time in bed or the bathroom. His skin took on a grayish tint. He lost weight he couldn't afford to lose. This is my fault, Lila said to Dr. Chen at one of her checkups. I pushed him to do this. You gave him a reason to fight. That's not the same thing. Dr. Chen checked Lila's blood pressure. How are you holding up? I'm fine. You're 28 weeks pregnant, living with a man going through intensive cancer treatment, and you just moved. You're allowed to not be fine. Lila felt tears prick her eyes. I'm scared. What if the treatment doesn't work? What if he dies, and I'm left doing this alone? Then you'll do it alone, and you'll survive. Women are stronger than we give ourselves credit for. Dr. Chen squeezed her shoulder. But he's not dead yet. Don't grieve him before you have to. At home, Lila found Grayson on the bathroom floor, too weak to get up. I'm okay, he said, even though he clearly wasn't. Stop saying that. She helped him to his feet, supporting most of his weight. You're allowed to admit this is awful. It is awful. Thank you. Was that so hard? He laughed, the sound raspy. You're mean when you're worried. And you're stubborn when you're dying. They made it to his bed. Lila helped him lie down, adjusting pillows until he was comfortable, or as comfortable as possible given the circumstances. You should go, Grayson said. You don't need to see me like this. Too bad. I'm staying. Lila, I said I'm staying. She sat on the edge of the bed. You don't get to push me away just because things are hard. We're in this together, remember? He closed his eyes. I don't want you to see me weak. Too late. I've seen you cry like 6 times already. The tough guy act doesn't really work anymore. That got another laugh. Quieter this time, but real. Fair point. Lila stayed with him through the night, helped him to the bathroom when the nausea got too bad, brought him water he couldn't keep down, wiped his face with a cool cloth when the fever spiked. It was intimate in a way that had nothing to do with romance and everything to do with trust. "I'm sorry," he said sometime around 3 in the morning. "For what?" "For dragging you into this mess. You should be with someone healthy, someone who can actually help you with the baby." "I don't want someone else. I want you." The words came out before Lila could stop them. She felt her face heat. "I mean, as a co-parent, obviously." Grayson opened his eyes. Even sick and exhausted, his gaze was sharp. "Obviously." They looked at each other in the dim light. The baby chose that moment to kick hard enough that Lila gasped. "She's active tonight," Grayson said. "She's always active." Lila took his hand and placed it on her stomach. "Here, feel." Another kick, strong and insistent. Grayson's face transformed. For a moment, he didn't look sick or scared or tired. He just looked happy. "She's strong," he said. "She has to be. She's got you for a father. And you for a mother." His hand stayed on her stomach, following the movement. "She's going to be incredible." "Yeah, she is." At 32 weeks, Lila's back started hurting constantly. Dr. Chen said it was normal. The baby was getting bigger, putting pressure on her spine. But normal didn't make it less miserable. Grayson, slightly better after weeks of brutal treatment, noticed immediately. "You're walking funny," he said. "My back hurts." "Sit down. I'll rub it." "You can barely stand up without getting dizzy." "I can sit on a couch and use my hands." "Sit." Lila was too tired to argue. She sat, and Grayson's hands found the knots in her lower back, working them with surprising skill. "Where did you learn to do this?" she asked. "YouTube. I've had a lot of time on my hands lately." "You watched YouTube videos on giving pregnant women back rubs?" "Among other things." "Did you know there's a whole technique for swaddling babies? It's called the burrito method." Despite the pain, Lila laughed. "You're learning to swaddle?" "I'm learning everything. How to change diapers, how to hold a newborn, what all the different cries mean. I figure if I'm going to do this, I should do it right." Something in Lila's chest cracked open. "You're really preparing, like you actually believe you'll be here." His hand stilled on her back. "The treatment is working, not as fast as they'd like, but the tumors are shrinking. Dr. Morrison thinks if we can get through another month of this, I might actually make it to the birth." "Might?" "Nothing's guaranteed, but it's better odds than I had 6 months ago." He resumed the massage. "I'm not giving up, Lila. Not when I have something to fight for." She reached back and covered his hand with hers. "Good, because I need you here. We both do." "I know." They stayed like that, his hands on her back, her hand on his, the baby moving between them. Outside the windows, the city glittered in the dark. Inside, two people who'd started as strangers sat in comfortable silence and tried not to think about all the ways this could still go wrong. At 36 weeks, Lila woke up in the middle of the night to sharp pain radiating through her stomach. Not contractions. She'd read enough to know what those felt like. This was different, constant, terrifying. She stumbled to Grayson's room and knocked. "Something's wrong." He was up immediately. "What kind of wrong?" "I don't know. Pain. Worse than normal. Hospital. Now." Marcus met them downstairs, half asleep but alert enough to drive safely. Grayson held Lila's hand the entire way, his grip tight enough to hurt. She didn't complain. The hospital was bright and busy despite the hour. A nurse took Lila back immediately, hooking her up to monitors that beeped and showed graphs Lila didn't understand. "Is the baby okay?" she asked. "Heartbeat strong. Let's see what's causing the pain." The nurse pressed on Lila's stomach, watching her face. "Does this hurt?" "Yes. Everything hurts." A doctor came in, older with kind eyes. "I'm Dr. Palmer. Let's take a look." The ultrasound showed the baby was fine. Perfect, even. But Lila's blood pressure was elevated. "Concerning," Dr. Palmer said. They wanted to keep her for observation. "For how long?" Lila asked. "At least overnight. Maybe longer if things don't stabilize." Grayson, standing in the corner looking like he might pass out, spoke up. "What does this mean for the baby?" "Right now, the baby's fine. But if Lila's blood pressure keeps climbing, we might need to induce early. She's far enough along that the baby would likely be okay, but we'd prefer to wait if we can. They moved Lila to a room. Not the maternity ward yet, just a regular hospital room with uncomfortable chairs and a TV that only got 3 channels. Grayson refused to leave. "You should go home," Lila said. "Get some rest." "I'm not going anywhere." "Grayson, I said I'm not going anywhere." He pulled one of the uncomfortable chairs next to her bed and sat down. "You're stuck with me." She wanted to argue, but honestly, she was grateful. Being alone in a hospital room in the middle of the night sounded terrible. They gave her medication to bring down the blood pressure, ordered bed rest and monitoring every 2 hours. The nurses came and went, checking numbers and asking questions. Through it all, Grayson stayed. "You look terrible," Lila told him around dawn. "Thanks. You look great." "Liar. You're glowing." "That's sweat," he smiled. "Still counts." The blood pressure stabilized by afternoon. Not perfect, but better. Dr. Palmer said she could go home, but needed complete bed rest for the next few weeks. "No stairs, no heavy lifting, minimal activity," he instructed. "We're trying to get you to 38 weeks at least, preferably 40. "So I just lie in bed for a month?" "Basically, yes," Lila groaned. "I'm going to lose my mind." "Then I'll keep you company," Grayson said. And he did. For the next 2 weeks, as Lila's due date crept closer, Grayson barely left her side. He worked from a laptop next to her bed, taking calls and video conferences while she watched terrible daytime TV. He brought her meals and books and magazines. He rubbed her feet when they swelled and fetched her water when she was too tired to get up. "You don't have to do this," she said for the 100th time. "I want to." "Why?" "Because you're important to me." He said it simply, like it was obvious. "Both of you are." Lila felt her eyes fill with tears. Pregnancy hormones, probably, or maybe just the weight of everything finally catching up to her. "I'm scared," she admitted, "about labor, about being a mom, about all of it." "Me too." "You're not the one who has to push a human out of your body." "True, but I'm the one who might not be around to help raise her." Grayson set his laptop aside. "We're both scared. That's okay." "When did you get so wise?" "When I started dying, tends to give you perspective." At 38 weeks and 3 days, Lila's water broke at 2 in the morning. She woke up in a puddle and immediately panicked. "Grayson!" she yelled. He appeared in her doorway in seconds, hair sticking up, eyes wide. "What's wrong?" "My water broke." For a moment he just stared, then he snapped into action. Okay. Hospital bag? By the door. Phone? Charging in the kitchen. Marcus? Call him." Grayson called Marcus while helping Lila to her feet. She was shaking. This was happening. This was really happening. The drive to the hospital was a blur. Lila's contractions started in the car. Not terrible yet, but definitely present. Grayson held her hand and timed them on his phone, his face pale, but determined. At the hospital, they were taken to a delivery room. Nurses swarmed, asking questions and checking monitors and preparing equipment. Someone asked if Grayson was the father. He said yes, without hesitation. "I'm going to be right here," he told Lila. "Every step. I'm not going anywhere." "You promise?" "I promise." Labor was brutal, worse than anything Lila had imagined. Hours of pain that seemed endless. Grayson stayed by her side through all of it, letting her squeeze his hand until she thought she might break his fingers. He didn't complain. "You're doing great," he kept saying. "I'm dying." "You're not dying. You're bringing our daughter into the world." Same thing. At hour 12, the nurse checked her progress and smiled. "You're ready. Time to push." Lila felt panic surge. "I can't." "Yes, you can," Grayson said, his face close to hers. "You're the strongest person I know. You can do this." "What if I can't?" "Then we'll figure it out together. But you can. I know you can." The doctor came in. More nurses, everyone in position. Someone told Lila to push, and she did, screaming through the pain. "Again," the doctor said. She pushed until her body felt like it was tearing apart. Grayson's voice was in her ear, steady and certain, telling her she was strong, she was brave, she was almost there. "One more big push," the doctor said. Lila pushed with everything she had left. And then, a cry. loud and angry and perfect. "It's a girl," the doctor announced, holding up a tiny red-faced baby. Lila collapsed back against the pillows, sobbing. They cleaned the baby quickly and placed her on Lila's chest. She was so small, so perfect, dark hair and furious eyes and tiny fists waving at the world. "Hi," Lila whispered. "Hi, baby." She looked up at Grayson. He was crying, tears streaming down his face as he stared at their daughter. "Do you want to hold her?" Lila asked. He nodded, unable to speak. The nurse helped him, showing him how to support the baby's head. Grayson cradled their daughter like she was made of glass, his whole body shaking. "She's perfect," he finally managed. "She's absolutely perfect." The baby opened her eyes and seemed to look right at him. Grayson made a sound between a laugh and a sob. "Hi, sweetheart," he said. "I'm your dad. I've been waiting so long to meet you." Lila watched them together and felt something she'd never felt before. Complete. Like all the broken pieces of her life had suddenly arranged themselves into something whole. A nurse came to weigh and measure the baby. 7 pounds, 4 ounces, 20 inches long, healthy and strong. "Have you picked a name?" she asked. Lila and Grayson looked at each other. They'd discussed it endlessly over the past months, going through hundreds of options without settling on anything. "Emma?" Lila said suddenly. "I want to name her Emma." "Emma Vale," Grayson said, testing it out. "I love it." "Emma Hartvale," Lila corrected, "if that's okay." "More than okay." He looked down at the baby in his arms. "Welcome to the world, Emma Hartvale. We're so happy you're here." They spent the next hour in a bubble, just the three of them. Nurses came and went, but Lila barely noticed. She was too focused on Emma's tiny fingers, her button nose, the way she made little squeaking sounds when she slept. "I can't believe we made her," Lila said. "Technically, science made her." "You know what I mean." Grayson settled into the chair next to the bed, still holding Emma. "I was so scared I wouldn't make it to this moment, that I'd die before getting to meet her." "But you didn't." "No, I didn't." He looked up at Lila. "The treatment worked. Dr. Morrison called yesterday with the latest scans. The tumors are almost gone." Lila sat up so fast she made herself dizzy. "What?" "I was going to tell you after the birth, didn't want to jinx it. But the scans are clear, not completely. There's still traces. But enough that he's calling it remission." "I'm in remission, Lila." She started crying again. "You're going to be okay?" "Looks like it. I mean, there's no guarantees. Cancer's tricky. But for now, I get to be here. I get to be Emma's dad." "You get to be here," Lila repeated, the words sinking in. He was going to live. He was going to be there for first steps and first words and first days of school. All the moments she'd been preparing to face alone, they'd face together. "Come here," she said, making room on the hospital bed. Grayson carefully climbed up next to her, Emma still in his arms. The three of them fit perfectly, like they'd been designed to be together. "We're a family," Lila said softly. "Yeah, we are." Emma made a small sound, like she agreed. Outside the hospital room, the world kept spinning. But inside, in that moment, everything was exactly as it should be. The first night home with Emma was chaos. She cried for 3 hours straight, refusing every attempt at comfort. Lila tried feeding her, changing her, rocking her, singing to her. Nothing worked. "What are we doing wrong?" Lila asked, tears streaming down her face. Grayson paced the nursery with Emma against his shoulder, looking just as lost. "I don't know. Maybe she's sick? Should we call the doctor? At 2 a.m? If something's wrong." Emma chose that moment to burp, loud and wet, and immediately stopped crying. She blinked up at Grayson with innocent eyes like she hadn't just put them through hell. "Gas," Lila said flatly. She was crying because of gas. Grayson looked at the baby in his arms. 3 hours of screaming because you needed to burp? Emma yawned. "We're going to be terrible at this," Lila said. "Probably." Grayson carefully placed Emma in her crib. She stayed asleep this time, tiny chest rising and falling. "But we'll figure it out." They stood there watching her sleep, both exhausted, both terrified, both completely in love with this tiny person who'd upended their entire world. The weeks that followed were a blur of sleepless nights and endless diapers and learning curve after learning curve. Emma had colic. Emma hated being swaddled. Emma would only sleep if someone was holding her. Emma had very strong opinions about everything despite being barely a month old. She gets that from you, Grayson said one morning, bouncing Emma while Lila tried to drink coffee. She's stubborn like you. I prefer determined. Same thing. Emma spit up on Grayson's shoulder. He didn't even flinch anymore. 2 weeks ago, he would have panicked. Now he just grabbed a burp cloth and kept bouncing. You're getting good at this, Lila observed. I've been thrown up on 17 times in the past month. You develop immunity. He glanced at her. You okay? You look tired. I am tired. She was up every hour last night. I know. I heard. Grayson shifted Emma to his other shoulder. Go back to bed. I've got her. You have that conference call at 9. I'll take it with a baby on my lap. Won't be the first time. He kissed Emma's head. Go. Sleep. I mean it. Lila was too exhausted to argue. She stumbled back to her room and crashed for 3 hours, the longest stretch of sleep she'd gotten since Emma was born. When she woke up, the apartment was quiet. Too quiet. Lila's heart jumped into her throat. She rushed to the living room and found Grayson asleep on the couch, Emma sleeping on his chest, both of them breathing in sync. Her phone was on the coffee table. Lila picked it up and took a photo before she could stop herself. Grayson and Emma, peaceful and perfect and utterly unaware of how much they'd changed her life. At Emma's 2-month checkup, Dr. Chen declared her healthy and thriving. She's in the 75th percentile for weight and height. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Mostly, we just try to keep her alive, Lila said. That's the goal. Everything else is bonus. In the waiting room afterward, Lila bounced Emma on her knee while Grayson filled out paperwork. A woman across from them smiled. How old? She asked. 2 months, Lila said. She's beautiful. You two must be so proud. Lila opened her mouth to correct her, to explain that it was complicated, that they weren't actually together, but Grayson spoke first. We are. Thank you. The woman left and Lila looked at Grayson. You didn't correct her. Should I have? I don't know. It's just, people assume we're a couple. Does that bother you? Lila thought about it. No, not really. Does it bother you? No. Grayson set down the clipboard. Actually, I've been meaning to talk to you about that. About people thinking we're together? About us actually being together. Lila's heart stopped. What? I know this started as an arrangement, a business deal, but somewhere along the way it became more than that, at least for me. He turned to face her fully. I love you, Lila. I think I have for a while now. I just didn't know how to say it. Emma grabbed Lila's finger and squeezed. Lila stared at Grayson, trying to process his words. You love me? Yes. Since when? I don't know. Maybe that first night in the diner. Maybe when you agreed to this crazy plan. Maybe when I watched you go through labor and realized I couldn't imagine my life without you in it. He reached over and touched Emma's cheek. You gave me everything I never knew I needed. A daughter, a family, a reason to keep fighting. How could I not love you? Lila felt tears building. This is a lot. I know. And if you don't feel the same way, that's okay. We can keep things how they are. Co-parenting, friends, whatever you're comfortable with. I just needed you to know. Grayson, you don't have to answer now. Take your time. Think about it. He stood up. I'll go settle the bill. He walked away, leaving Lila sitting there with Emma and a heart that was beating so hard she thought it might explode. Did she love him? She cared about him, obviously, trusted him, couldn't imagine raising Emma without him. But love? Emma looked up at her with Grayson's eyes and made a cooing sound. What do you think? Lila whispered. Should I tell him the truth? Emma drooled in response. Very helpful. Thanks. That night, after Emma was finally asleep, Lila found Grayson on the balcony. He was staring out at the city, hands shoved in his pockets, looking like he expected her to tell him to pack his bags. Hey, she said. Hey, can we talk? Of course. He didn't turn around. Lila moved to stand beside him. I've been thinking about what you said. And I think you're right. This did become more than an arrangement. She took a breath. I love you too. I think I have for a while. I was just too scared to admit it. Now Grayson turned. You love me? Yes. Which is terrifying because I've never loved anyone before, and I don't really know how to do this. The words came faster. But I know I want to try. I know that when I think about the future, you're in it. Not just as Emma's father, but as someone who matters to me. Someone I need. Grayson closed the distance between them. You're sure? I'm scared and confused and have no idea what I'm doing, but yeah, I'm sure. He kissed her. Gentle at first, then deeper when she kissed him back. It felt right, like coming home after a long trip, like finding something she didn't know she'd been searching for. When they pulled apart, Grayson rested his forehead against hers. So what now? Now we figure it out as we go, same as everything else. I can work with that. They went inside and checked on Emma, who was still sleeping peacefully. Then they ended up in the living room, talking until 3 a.m. about everything and nothing, about what they wanted their future to look like, about how to make this work without losing the friendship they'd built. We should probably set some ground rules, Lila said. Like what? Like we don't rush into anything. We take it slow. Make sure this is real and not just us being caught up in the moment. Okay. What else? Emma comes first. Always. If we fight or things get complicated, we don't let it affect her. Agreed. Grayson pulled Lila closer on the couch. Anything else? You have to stop folding my laundry. It's weird. I like folding laundry. You fold it better than me and it makes me feel inadequate. He laughed. Fine, no more laundry folding. Thank you. They fell asleep on the couch, tangled together, and woke up to Emma crying at 6 a.m. Grayson went to get her while Lila started coffee. Domestic. Easy. Like they'd been doing this for years instead of months. Good morning, sweetheart, Grayson said, carrying Emma into the kitchen. Did you sleep well? No. Yeah, me neither. Your mom snores. I do not snore. You absolutely snore. It's like sharing a couch with a chainsaw. Lila threw a dish towel at him. He caught it one-handed, grinning. Emma looked between them and smiled. Her first real smile, not just gas or reflex. A genuine, happy smile. They both froze. Did you see that? Lila whispered. She smiled. Get the camera. Grayson fumbled for his phone while Lila made faces at Emma, trying to get her to do it again. She obliged, giving them a toothless grin that made Lila's heart melt. She's perfect, Grayson said, snapping photos. She is, isn't she? Takes after her mother. And her father. Lila looked at him. She's lucky to have you. We're lucky to have each other. The next few months were an adjustment, learning to be a couple while also being parents, learning each other's rhythms and quirks and boundaries. It wasn't always smooth. They argued about stupid things like whose turn it was to do dishes and whether Emma needed a jacket. But they also laughed more than Lila had ever laughed in her life. Grayson's health remained stable. Monthly scans showed the cancer staying in remission. He still had bad days, times when the fatigue hit hard or the fear crept in. But mostly, he was present. Fully, completely present in a way Lila hadn't expected. How are you this good at being a dad? She asked one night, watching him give Emma a bath. YouTube videos, remember? It's more than that. You're natural with her. Grayson carefully rinsed soap from Emma's hair. I spent my whole life building a company, making deals, chasing success. This is the first time I've ever built something that actually matters. I'm not going to half-ass it. Language. There's a baby present. She's 3 months old. She doesn't know what that means. Still, we need to start being careful. You're right. He lifted Emma out of the bath and wrapped her in a towel. Sorry, Em. Daddy will watch his language from now on. Emma gurgled happily. At 6 months, Emma started eating solid foods. This led to a disaster involving mashed peas and Grayson's favorite shirt. She hates peas, Lila said, trying not to laugh. Everyone hates peas. Why did we start with peas? The book said to start with vegetables. The book is wrong. Grayson wiped green mush from his face. We're trying sweet potatoes tomorrow. Emma banged her hands on her high chair tray, clearly proud of the chaos she'd created. She's got your sense of humor, Grayson said to Lila. My sense of humor doesn't involve throwing food. Give it time. They cleaned up the mess together, moving around each other in the kitchen with practiced ease. Somewhere along the way, they'd become a team, a unit, a family in every sense of the word. That night, after Emma was asleep, Grayson found Lila looking through photos on her phone. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Just thinking about how different my life is now. A year ago, I was working double shifts and living in an apartment with a broken heater. Now I have a daughter and a partner and an actual future." Grayson sat beside her. "Do you miss it? Your old life?" "Parts of it. The independence, the simplicity." Lila set down her phone. "But I wouldn't trade this for anything, even the hard parts." "There are a lot of hard parts." "Yeah, but there are good parts too, like watching you sing off-key lullabies at 2 in the morning." "I don't sing off-key." "You really do." He kissed her temple. "Well, you're stuck with me now, off-key singing and all." "I can live with that." When Emma turned 1, they threw a party. Nothing huge, just a few friends and colleagues who'd become important over the past year. Marcus came, looking uncomfortable in a party hat. Dr. Chen brought a gift wrapped in paper covered in dancing animals. Even Richard showed up, presenting Emma with a savings bond and a card that was surprisingly heartfelt. "You've done well," Richard told Grayson quietly. "Better than I expected when you first told me this plan." "You thought I was crazy. I thought you were desperate. Turns out you were both." Richard watched Lila help Emma open presents across the room. "But you found something real. That's rare." Emma smashed her face into the birthday cake, getting frosting everywhere. Lila tried to clean her up while Grayson took approximately 500 photos. Everyone laughed. It was messy and chaotic and absolutely perfect. After the guests left and Emma was finally asleep, Lila and Grayson collapsed on the couch. "We survived her first birthday," Lila said. "Barely." "Do you think she'll remember any of this?" "Probably not, but we will." Grayson pulled out his phone and scrolled through the photos. "Look at this one. She's wearing more cake than she ate." "That's definitely going in the baby book." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Grayson said, "I've been thinking." "About what?" "About making this official." Lila's heart jumped. "Official how?" Grayson got up and disappeared into his room. He came back with a small box. Lila's breath caught. "Is that what I think it is?" "Depends on what you think it is." He opened the box. Inside was a ring. Simple, elegant, perfect. "Lila Hart, will you marry me?" "You're serious." "Completely serious. I know we started this whole thing as an arrangement, but it became real. You became real. Emma made us a family, but you made me want to be better. Made me want to fight for a future I never thought I'd have." He took the ring out of the box. "I love you. I want to spend whatever time I have left, whether that's 5 years or 50, being your husband. So what do you say?" Lila looked at him. At this man who'd walked into a diner a year and a half ago and changed everything. Who'd given her a daughter and a home, and a reason to believe in second chances. "Yes," she said. "Yes, I'll marry you." Grayson slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, like it had been made for her. Maybe it had. Maybe this whole thing had been building to this moment since that rainy November night. They kissed, and it felt different this time. Not like a beginning, but like a continuation. Like they were writing a story that had started in desperation, but had become something worth keeping. "When should we do it?" Lila asked. "The wedding?" "Whenever you want. Big ceremony, small ceremony, courthouse. I don't care as long as you're there." "Small," Lila decided. "Just us and Emma and a few people we care about. Nothing fancy." "I can work with that." They got married 3 months later in the same park where they'd first agreed to this arrangement. It was a sunny afternoon in early spring, cherry blossoms just starting to bloom. Emma wore a white dress and kept trying to eat the petals. Lila wore something simple but beautiful. Grayson wore a suit and cried through his vows. "I came to you with nothing but a desperate hope," he said, hands shaking as he held Lila's. "You gave me everything, a daughter, a family, a reason to keep living. You saved my life in more ways than one. I promise to spend the rest of my days making sure you never regret saying yes to a dying man in a diner." "You're not dying," Lila said, crying too. "Not anymore." "Not anymore," he agreed. Lila's vows were shorter but no less meaningful. "You saw something in me I didn't see in myself. You made me believe I deserved good things. You gave me Emma and a future and a love I didn't know existed. I promise to be your partner in all of this. The good days and the bad days, and all the messy days in between." They exchanged rings, kissed while their small group applauded. Emma clapped too, not understanding, but happy anyway. Marcus took photos. Dr. Chen cried. Richard looked suspiciously misty-eyed, but denied it when anyone asked. At the reception, just dinner at their favorite restaurant, Emma fell asleep in her high chair. Grayson carried her while Lila cut the cake. They danced to a song neither of them particularly liked, but that made them both laugh. "We did it," Lila said, her head on Grayson's shoulder. "We did. No regrets?" "Not a single one." Life settled into a new normal after that. Grayson continued going to checkups every 3 months. The cancer stayed dormant, though the doctors cautioned it could always come back. He learned to live with that uncertainty, to appreciate each day instead of worrying about losing them. Lila enrolled in online classes, working toward the marine biology degree she'd abandoned years ago. It was slow going with a toddler, but Grayson supported her every step of the way, watching Emma whenever Lila needed to study. Emma grew, faster than either of them wanted. She started walking at 13 months, talking at 18 months, asserting her independence at 2 years old. "No" became her favorite word. "She's very strong-willed," the pediatrician said at her 2-year checkup. "Wonder where she gets that," Lila muttered, side-eyeing Grayson. "Definitely from you," he said. Emma had opinions about everything. What she wore, what she ate, which parent put her to bed. She was exhausting and hilarious, and the best thing that had ever happened to either of them. On Emma's 2nd birthday, Grayson got the results from his latest scan. The cancer was still in remission. His doctor used the word cured for the first time, though cautiously. "I can't guarantee it won't come back," Dr. Morrison said. "But at this point, you've beaten the odds. Your body responded better than we ever expected." That night, Grayson held Emma on the balcony, pointing out stars. "See that one?" he said. "That's the North Star. It helped people find their way home when they were lost." Emma pressed her face against the glass. "Pretty." "Yeah, it is." He kissed the top of her head. "Daddy was lost once. But then I found Mommy and you, and now I'm home." "Home," Emma repeated, like she understood. Lila watched from the doorway, her heart so full it hurt. This was her family. Messy and imperfect and absolutely real, built from desperation and hope, and a willingness to take a chance on each other. When Emma was 3, they moved out of the penthouse and into a house with a yard, something with room to grow. Lila had argued they didn't need something so big, but Grayson insisted. "Emma needs space to play, and maybe—" He trailed off, looking uncertain. "Maybe someday she'll need space for a sibling." "A sibling?" "Only if you want. I know we didn't plan on more kids, but I've been thinking—" "Yes," Lila interrupted. "Yes? Yes, I want more kids. I want Emma to have what we didn't. A real family, siblings, stability, all of it." Their son was born 2 years later. They named him James, after Grayson's father. He had Lila's eyes and a disposition much calmer than his sister's. Emma was obsessed with him immediately. "My baby," she declared, refusing to let anyone else hold him. "You have to share," Lila told her. "No, my baby." Watching Emma cuddle James while Grayson read them both a story, Lila thought about that night in the diner, about the desperate man who'd offered her an impossible deal, about saying yes when every logical bone in her body screamed no. Best decision she'd ever made. The years passed. Emma started kindergarten. James learned to walk. Grayson remained cancer-free, the scans consistently clear. Lila finished her degree and got a job at the aquarium, studying the whales she'd dreamed about as a kid. "I'm proud of you," Grayson told her on her first day. "For what?" "For not giving up on your dreams, even when life got complicated. You made it possible." "No, you made it possible. I just gave you the space to do it." When Emma was 8 and James was 3, Lila found Grayson looking through old photos on his laptop. Pictures from that first diner meeting, from the hospital when Emma was born, from their wedding. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Remembering." He pulled her onto his lap. "Do you ever think about how different things could have been? If I hadn't walked into that diner, if you'd said no?" "Sometimes. But then I remember I don't want different. I want this. She gestured around at their house, their life, the sound of their kids playing in the next room. This is exactly where I'm supposed to be. Me too. They'd started with a business arrangement, a contract designed to protect everyone and trust no one. But somewhere along the way, they'd built something that no contract could capture. Love, trust, a family that chose each other every single day. Emma ran into the room, James toddling behind her. "Daddy, can we go to the park?" "It's almost dinner time, sweetheart." "Please, we'll be quick." Grayson looked at Lila. She shrugged. "Why not?" They went to the park, all four of them, watched Emma go down the slide approximately 40 times while James dug in the sandbox. Grayson pushed Emma on the swings while Lila held James, who was already getting sleepy. "Higher!" Emma shrieked. "Any higher and you'll hit the moon," Grayson said. "I want to hit the moon," Lila laughed. This was her life now, this chaos, this joy, this family she'd never expected but couldn't imagine living without. On the walk home, Emma held Grayson's hand while James rode on Lila's shoulders. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. "Mommy," Emma said, "do you love Daddy?" "Very much. Why?" "Because Sarah at school says her parents are getting divorced because they don't love each other anymore. You and Daddy won't do that, right?" Lila looked at Grayson. He was already looking at her, a soft smile on his face. "No, sweetheart," Lila said. "We won't do that." "Promise?" "Promise." "Good." Emma squeezed Grayson's hand tighter. "I like our family." "Me too, Em." "Me too." That night, after the kids were asleep, Lila and Grayson sat on their porch. It had become their ritual. Time to decompress and talk and just be together without anyone needing anything. "Do you ever regret it?" Lila asked. "The whole arrangement thing. How we started." "Never. Do you?" "Not for a second." She leaned against him. "I was so scared back then. Scared of needing someone. Scared of letting myself hope for more than just survival. And now? Now I'm still scared sometimes. But it's different. Now I'm scared of losing this. Of something happening to you or the kids or this life we've built." She looked up at him. "Is that crazy?" "No, it's human." Grayson wrapped his arm around her. "I'm scared too. The cancer could come back. Something else could happen. Life doesn't come with guarantees." "Comforting. But," he continued, "we've already beaten impossible odds. We've turned a desperate arrangement into a real marriage. We've built a family from nothing. If we can do that, we can handle whatever comes next." Lila thought about that. About the journey they'd taken from strangers to partners to parents to whatever they were now. Something beyond words. Something that didn't need a label, because it just was. "You know what the best part is," she said. "What?" "I get to do all of it with you. The scary parts and the boring parts and the amazing parts. All of it." "Best deal I ever made," Grayson said. "Same." They sat there in the quiet, watching the stars come out. Inside, their children slept peacefully. Around them, the life they'd built hummed along. Imperfect, messy, real. And somewhere in Portland, in a small diner with a flickering sign, life continued. New customers came and went. New stories began. But none quite like theirs, because their story had started with an ending, a dying man's desperate hope for something to leave behind. But it had become a beginning, a family, a love that proved that sometimes the best things in life come from the risks we're terrified to take. Lila looked at the ring on her finger, at the man beside her, at the house full of the sounds of their children sleeping, at the future stretching out ahead of them, unknown but no longer frightening. She'd said yes to a stranger in a diner because she needed the money. She'd stayed because somewhere along the way, need had transformed into want, and want had transformed into love. And that, she thought, was the real miracle. Not the contract or the arrangement or even Emma's birth. The miracle was finding someone who saw her, really saw her, and chose her anyway. Who made her believe she deserved good things. Who gave her a family when she'd spent her whole life alone. Grayson had come looking for a legacy. He'd found so much more. They both had. "I love you," Lila said, because sometimes you had to say it out loud just to make it real. "I love you too," Grayson replied, meaning every word. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything.